into. So we'll get underway with our very first map between these two teams. But if you're Oxygen, you had very minimal time to recover. So you're going to have to hit the ground running. They're going to be starting on defense on Villa. You've got the map working for you. 6 rounds for you to make a mark on this matchup. Don't squander that. The operator bans will go underway with Nomad and Hibana banned out, and we'll turn our sights towards the 2 defenders.
Okay, Villa, Nomad, Hibana. Nothing crazy going on here. Pulse as well. Okay, Pulse is a little bit different, but again, nothing too crazy. It makes sense on Villa. This is a very vertical map, and if you're able to leverage that on this map, you can be extremely proficient as a team. So that's not crazy. On the last ban, we will have Maestro banned out. So there we go. Ban's all cleaned up, finished off. So the reason you ban Hibana is because she is the only ranged hard destructor that is currently available to be played. Of course, Ace is not an option. And in the map on Villa, as I just mentioned, vertical play is a big deal here. So if you're a Thermite or a Maverick and you go in to try and open a wall, you might get C4'd from below, C4'd from above the wall. You might just get shot. And that's what Hibana's so useful for on this map. You don't have to expose yourself. So getting her out forces that exposure. I think that's pretty typical of Villa.
The Pulse ban is an interesting one because, I mean, we watch SSG play, and you know that Pulse is a stable operator for them, but it's also a stable operator for somebody like Foxay. And the way that OXG can play off of that, and the way that Foxay is capable of making those calls, well, it's not a surprise to take out a staple in that lineup. I mean, obviously, we're going to see the impact immediately because OXG is starting on defense. They're not going to have the Pulse at their disposal right off the bat. It's going to put Foxay on a bit of an interesting role. He's going to be playing on Smoke. That's a very familiar role for Slash, but Slash is going to be on Echo. And I suspect that we're going to see a great deal of diversity in the operator bans here. I mean, we already saw it earlier today. Expect to see a Clash ban at some point if this goes into the dead of night, because Clash can be quite a strong operator, especially on our second map, which is Consulate. And you know that Canadian quite enjoys running that operator as it annoys and frustrates and flusters the opponents. So with that said, starting on Aviator Games, the typical default bomb site, and OXG setup is something that we've seen increasingly commonly, which is where they keep one of the panels open inside of games. There's a rotate at play. You're going to stack up ADSs and Wamai magnets over by the main stairs, which is exactly where you see Laxing playing off of. And a deployable shield with the slats will give him tons of intel, so that's a good perch for him to play off of.
Plenty of denial when it comes to those grenades, but not going to factor in just yet. One thing that's curious is that Thatcher is, as far as I can tell, not banned, and he's not being played here. He would be useful in clearing out ADSs and magnets from the Wamai, but they're just going to stick to the stuns instead. I guess, you know, use the tried and true methods there. Now, that's going to mean that Laxing will be able to stay here quite a lot longer, I would imagine. You can see SSG is pondering their options. They're not sure exactly what play to make, considering they've got that shield at the top of the stairs. I expect them to figure out how they want to deal with this soon. They're going to opt for a rush into Study. Positioning faults in Study means that Laxing has to watch 2 sides of that doorway. It's going to make his job a little bit harder. They've cleared out the ADSs and the magnets, and Laxing's just going to peel off. Foxay will reinforce the wall, and time wasted for SSG. Good job to Oxygen, Laxing in particular, to get that done, but yeah, the control is still established for the attack.
And right where that deployable shield and Laxi have been playing is now where Fultz will sit. He's been droned up towards that start of the hallway. Rampy from down below, presumably with those 2 frag grenades ready to deal some damage to the feet of OXG. Will take a tiny bit of damage from Foxay, watching that quite keenly. And now it's Rampy to make it up those stairs, and a frag grenade in hand, ready to get dropped onto the head of Foxay, but it'll go down, and all it'll do is take away any denial that might have been there. We can see that there's none present, though. It also shakes Foxay off of that spot, so With an exothermic charge, you can be very, very at risk of getting impact trick. And there's 2 impacts in the hands of Slash. That definitely could have been a consideration, but isn't at this particular time. A smoke from Fox A tossed out towards the top of main stairs will hold Foltz at bay for now, and a shotgun in hand will mean the death of anybody from Space Station who gets too close. There goes a drone and another toxic canister from Fox A as he patrols this one area. Down below, a frag grenade goes up. A bunch of damage done to Fox A, but not quite enough. The hunters from SSG are going to need to be a little bit quicker as we're 10 seconds left and everybody is still alive in this server. Foltz decides to try to pounce on it, but Fox A gets the opening pick on Narampi. Only 2 seconds left and 8 people still alive. No diffuser going down. That's a mess, and what a hold from Oxygen. They just bleed that timer dry, and Space Station had no chance to use the clock correctly. OXG will take the opening round here on Villa and in the series.
So, of course, there's not really much more to talk about in that round other than Laxing's position at the top of main stairs. He delayed for a little over half the round, I'd say about 2 solid minutes. And that's more than you can expect or should expect from anyone. SSG would have been better off throwing their bodies haphazardly at the problem than letting the time bleed away. I gotta say also props to Laxing for having the awareness to fall off of top main after his welcome had worn out. That's great game sense for Laxing, and you got to commend him for that. SSG almost managed it. If you gave them maybe 5 more seconds, they probably would have been able to make that execution happen. You can see the plant was about to start going down. SSG was picking up the kills, but just too little too late. So, nice try there for SSG. You can expect them to start to ramp it up as we go along here. And speed up those attacks. But Oxygen, certainly happy about taking that first one.
You're going to need a couple more of those. It was a good waste of time. And it certainly seemed like SSG also got tripped up at the top of the main stairs. That's where Foltz was waiting. Rampy had been there for just a moment as well. And after the peel back from OXG and that reinforcement went up, that quick rotate that could have been still in play, it forced Space Station to, after they got the aviator wall, to immediately, or they got the games wall technically inside a study, they immediately had to pivot and get the other side of that same wall, just on the other side of the bar. And they did it with, I think, 12 seconds left, but there were still at least 2 toxic canisters. I think the second one got tossed out almost immediately by Fox A, who did an impeccable job. And I noted when we saw him on the smoke that it's not exactly a role that he plays so often. It's not usually the operator when he's on defense, or Oxygen's on defense rather, that we see him use. He did it masterfully. The rest of the team didn't really need to sweat. I think Slash got the very final kill, and there were still 7 people alive when the round ended, if my arithmetic is correct. So, and I mean, it's also an Echo that was still up. So you've not just got plant denial, you've got those 2 yokais, you've got tons of intel. There was no way that OXG was going to be able to lose that round, even if, as you said, they, SSG needed an extra 5 seconds. So,
well, still some roamers upstairs for Oxygen. Slow clear once again for SSG. You can see they're aware of the potential player upstairs, and Laxing will fall back as I believe his shield might have been destroyed by that nade. Yes, indeed. So, shield destroyed. Laxing retreats. Once again, lots of time wasted. Half the round for SSG to use their sledge to good effect, as well as their IQ. They can use that IQ sensor to look through the floor, destroy a bunch of the electronics in the site, maybe kill someone who's on camps. Pre-play C4? Nope, just going to be wasted C4 for Fox A, and nothing will come of that. Laxing moves his roam from all the way upstairs down into the basement, so he'll be trying to probably hold on to storage along with vertical. So you've got 2 players on the defense all the way in the bottom floor. The other 3 probably anchoring in the site as we near the last minute of the round. And this really could go either way, considering there's no kills so far in this round. Once again, a very slow match.
Vertical on those stairs from the pantry in the basement. He's doing his best Laxing impression, waiting to strike very, very quietly. Very, very quietly. If he can possibly catch somebody, who knows? Self-destruction work from above. Keep your eyes on exactly what Vertical is able to pull off. Fultz down below takes out Laxing. Laxing doing his best Laxing impersonation. And what a missed opportunity from Fultz as Vertical is able to pounce on that one. And a belated refrag with a frag grenade of its own getting tossed out. It connects onto Biologic. Fox 8 with one on the Canadian. Those were the two men in our polls. Another from Slash before he's finished off. And now it's OXG in a 2v1. Thinking Nade with 12 seconds left. He'll have to grab that diffuser. And he has no idea where anybody's going to be coming from. 6 seconds, 5 seconds, doesn't matter. A couple bullets to the chest, and that's Foxay finishing things off. He's had a great 2 rounds so far. He keeps it up. Oxygen's chances will inevitably continue to rise, and OXG finds themselves up 2-0.
Okay, that round was a little bit scrambled. There are a lot of things to pick apart. The main thing, though, once again, I think it looked like time was the issue for SSG. They're playing a little bit slow, a little bit too slow. A little bit too carefully, and it's costing them because Oxygen's not really probing that hard. They aren't putting players out of position to get a crazy early pick. Now, they've done that a little bit. Not as much as I would expect, though. For example, Laxing. Yeah, he was roaming upstairs, but he was in the corner of Astro, and yeah, maybe he could have gotten a pick off his shield, but he shouldn't have been able to waste half the round from that position, and he did. It's the same thing he did in the first round. These problems need to be dealt with, I think, a lot sooner for SSG, because after they run out of all that time, you could see them start to scramble, start to say, okay, wow, we really need to hit the site. Let's go. And as they get into that process, SSG starts to realize, oh, wow, we don't have enough time. Perfectly synchronized. Just beautiful. So SSG need to just be a little bit quicker on the draw. I think that maybe they're overthinking it right now. That's the way it looks to me. When you consider that they're so slow on the uptake to the clear, and then on top of that, they're not getting any picks on the upstairs clear. It did manage to get Laxing down below, but that's a transition. And again, since it's happening so late, it's actually not that useful. I mean, Laxing's already done his job at that point. Look at the man. He has 0 kills, 2 assists, and 2 deaths right now. And he's one of the most impactful players in this match thus far. So, time. Serious issue for SSG.
I think that was one of the biggest negatives about them as well in their earlier matchup against Dark Zero, and it was touched upon by a bunch of commentators on social media. It was something that I picked up on when I was watching the match, and I think the analysts took a pretty good crack at it as well. Dark Zero, a team that is known for maybe getting stuck in a rut when things don't go according to plan in a round, were making great calls on the fly. Eclipse in particular was really playing out of his mind, and you know, I think both he and Skies were reacting extremely well through the mid-round, and then, of course, Hot and Cold, too, on Heartbreach, as he always does. It was, to me, the Achilles heel of Space Station was that they couldn't really seem to adapt to what Dark Zero was throwing at them. They were the team that seemed like they were a bit stuck in the mud and didn't really know how to deal with the things that were being presented by their opponents. If that keeps up, then a team like Oxygen, which can be quite slippery, and you know, it's not even just Laxing. He's gonna sit center stage when we talk about unpredictability factors, when we talk about elusiveness. Laxing is always the man that comes up, especially in this region. But Vertical is capable of doing it. Foxay is capable of doing it as well. Well, you've got that 1-2 punch on site of Slash and Bio. So if SSG are not capable of finding their footing at some point, and I mean, it's Villa and it's OXG on defense. You can't, that was a beautiful play, by the way. Speaking of finding their footing, Fultz is not going to, as I stop to watch that excellent coordination on the Yokai, and Slash pops out and just crushes Fultz. Fultz had a bad first game against Dark Zero. We said a long time ago, if Fultz doesn't have a good set, you know, if Fultz has a bad game, he's not going to have a bad one again. Well, you better hope if you're SSG, that's not the case. Second kill from OXG, and my diatribe is done because we're a minute left into this round, and OXG has a 2-person lead.
SSG, a little bit quicker to the draw, at least, this round. Unfortunately, it's not working out for them in the engagements. Lots of individual engagements we're seeing for SSG. Overextension as well. If Fultz is pushed up all the way and they don't have control of that connecting room, then there's a problem. Ooh, Echo exposed himself. And, well, Rampy's having none of that. Foxay will go down. It was a bad move to peek like that when they weren't sure about master control. So, Oxygen gives a lifeline to SSG and a chance. The Slash on low HP. It's certainly possible, though he's still got his 3 gas canisters. He can delay for quite a long time. What a nade! Vertical goes down. Rampy picking up the big frags here. Gas canister will force him back, but he knows where his opponent is and the shield. He'll use the nade to get that shield. and it'll work. That allows for the push in through Statuary. Meanwhile, Thinking Nade will get a pick on Trophy. Slash goes down, and suddenly this is very winnable for SSG. They do need to get that plant down, and once again, the time is a major factor here. The Peak sees the planter, but misses the shot. The C4 gets taken midair, and oh no, just in the nick of time, Rampy has to cover in the 1v2. It's Biologic should be able to get the pistol kill here on the planter, and he does it! Just as the plant goes down, a 4K for Bio, and Oxygen get their third round.
So masterfully played by Biologic there. Goodness gracious, Rampy not understanding exactly where the opponents were, and Oxygen looked like they were really risking it all by having both members of that team peek the exact same doorway into Statuary, but it works out quite well. Works out very effectively, and hilariously, a gun that Canadian has talked a lot of smack about, the Roni, ends up being the saving grace for OXG. What a masterful retake that is by Oxygen, and they find themselves with the trifecta, the perfect cycle completed. And now round number 4 begins on Aviator Games anew. Probably the best round that we had seen out of Space Station just yet, as things are getting progressively better for SSG, and they're settling into the groove of attacking, but they've still come up short. For Oxygen, I can only imagine that that round in particular was a massive, massive confidence boost.
Yeah, and on the other hand, for SSG, that's got to be crippling. I mean, Rampy did so much work there, right? He's picking off one player after another from Master, which, by the way, huge oversight for Oxygen to let Master slip away for free. Rampy just walked in there. He didn't meet any kind of fight as he entered in through Master, and then he gets basically one free kill, we'll call it, and then another beautifully placed nade, and that's another kill. Both of Rampy's nades got a shield as well. We cannot undervalue that. Each of those shields was facing one of the 2 entry points, the 2 bottlenecks, as you come from top red or landing. And both of those shields were dealt with by Rampy. And yet, SSG still can't make it happen. Some really narrow engagements, though, and that easily could have gone both ways. Unfortunately for Space Station, it goes Oxygen's way. And one thing I think we can say safely, after only 3 rounds, Oxygen are certainly playing a different game than the one we just witnessed about half an hour prior.
Especially on a map like Villa, where Oxygen showed their struggles against SSG in the rubber match, I guess you could call it. The second time these two teams bashed their skulls against each other just a couple weeks ago, and what was a battle for supremacy, really. It was to see which team would be first overall. Of course, SSG won that fabled rematch. This is the rematch of the initial match. AKA, this is literally the best of 3, and it's a best of 3. Bacon tweeted something, by the way, if you follow Bacon from Dark Zero, former player, former coach. I know you do, Michael. I meant the people.
They ought to.
The people. You ought to follow Bacon. He's been doing an excellent job with Dark Zero. Dark Zero, of course, I think surprised a fair amount of people today with their performance. It shouldn't be all that surprising given the way they've played in the past, but I think Bosco was very honest in the pre-show where he said that, you know, they've seemed to had some struggles. They know they're not playing like themselves. Well, they certainly showed up big today. But anyway, Bacon tweeted that it was something like the best of 3 and a best of 3 in a third match on map 3 or something like that. I don't know. It hurt my brain.
Yeah,
it hurt my brain, but it applies here as well.
Yeah. There's a lot of layers, right? And I, for one, I'm grateful, again, for those storylines that we've managed to have built up through this first season of this format. I really like it. I'm a huge fan. And the Major has not disappointed either. I think we've had some really great matches.
It was very kind of Rampy to open the hatch for Vertical.
Yeah.
So now Vertical can live up to his namesake, and he can get real vertical and descend from the second floor to the first floor. A perfect flank route opened up. This is a similar setup from OXG, by the way, on this Aviator Games defense, with it being mostly stacked up towards the top main stairs. Not quite as aggressive a hold as we find of Study, as that appears to be the main point of entry. I wonder if the jig is up. Yes, it is. The Jaeger is spotted, but nobody quick to the punch from SSG. And instead, Vertical's just going to swing, and he misses for the most part. It looks like he might have done some damage to Canadian, doesn't get the target that he wants. He retreats to main stairs with 30 seconds left in the round. SSG will need to be better with time than they were in the very first round, and they'll get the opening pick and it will just continue to stack up. 2 kills, 1 from Laxing will try to bring the numbers closer together as Bosco falls, the best player from the matchup earlier against Dark Zero. Toxic Canisters getting hucked on out. No plant being attempted, but Canadian is only on a tick of HP, Michael, so he'll die if he breathes any of that Toxic Canister. SSG waiting for the sound of that starting gun, is thinking Nade will need to attempt the plant. Swinging on in, down goes Slash, as it's well played from Rampy. He's going to take some damage as Foxy finds the cross and 2 big kills, with the time again giving it to Oxygen. 4-0 for OXG on SSG's map. They put their stamp on this first half, and SSG just simply need to be better.
So let's pick this apart a little bit, because certainly SSG need to be better. And of course, for everybody watching right now, the pretty obvious point here is that Spacestation's attacks are too slow. The dilemma in that round seemed to be multiple different points, actually. It was a split take for SSG. They wanted to take top red, they wanted to take top main, and crush the site between them. That didn't happen. It didn't happen for a number of reasons. One, the Oxygen play. They were very aggressive. We saw, for example, Vertical, you were talking about him at the top of main. He did a great job in delaying, even just being spotted around the corner and then falling back, staying alive. That is significant. That gives Oxygen a leg up. And little things like that, they start to stack up as the round goes on. For example, a shield placed by in the hallway by the rotate from the main bar to the hallway, but facing 90. That shield allows Oxygen to play through the rotate that they made and to hinder a push from 90 for the attack. So now you've got no hard destruction coming into play because there's not enough time, and because Vertical is getting so aggressive, delaying and denying the push into study. And you've got a split push with barely any time left on the clock, and a total of 4 entry points. Your landing entry point, your study entry point, the rotation made, and the West Hall door itself. You could really call it 3. 3 bottlenecks defense has to hold. And they have to hold those bottlenecks with just 20 seconds left on the round. No picks for SSG. That's the real issue. There's nothing coming of this aggressive play you're seeing from Oxygen. No punishment at all. And it's punishing SSG in turn, I guess.
The cojones from Vertical as he gets droned out over by Study and then still takes the engagement anyway onto Fultz. And, well, the one thing to keep an eye on if you're a fan of SSG is going to be how well Fultz is capable of performing. He had a rough match against Dark Zero. You need better performances out of him. He had a rough match against OXG the very first time these two teams matched up, and was it Playday number 4, I believe it was. So if he isn't capable of showing up, that's a tough spot to be in, because he's on a roll where he needs to find the scoreboard. So, but with that said, SSG's entry has managed to scare Vertical over towards Trophy. It's a kitchen defense, so Vertical is but 1 leap and bound towards the bomb site, and a C4 almost claims 2 members of Spacestation as it blows up at the feet of both Fultz and Rampy. That could have been a rough spot to be in. They managed to survive for now, but we're halfway through the round, and it seems like SSG are still having some time just trying to discover where those pesky Valk cams are and how they want to get in towards the bomb sites.
Oh no. This is Foxy behind the attack. He's going to break Art door to look for some opportunities, but speaking of opportunities, Fultz will get Laxing. So, remember we just talked about how the roam is not being punished? Well, lo and behold, punishment. And this time it doesn't come far too late. It comes before we hit the last 60 seconds. That is a good pick. Now, we've seen that pick before. Generally, it's answered back by Oxygen. We even saw it on this very same site. And so far, just a little bit of calm and more delay work going on here. Oxygen is very spread, as you can see. Only 1 player on the site, 1 close. That's Vertical as he's playing by the staircase. But 2 roamers, 1 by living room and Foxy attempting to get back upstairs. There's potential for some serious work to be done by those roamers, and by the looks of the setup, the round will be made or broken by the roamers' presence.
Canadian will manage to open up that typical panel, but a nitro cell goes out and actually grabs the exothermic charge. A good use of that explosive as Biologic finds the scoreboard for OXG on this round. Fultz comes back to life. That's 2 kills for him so far, as Bio's going to have to fight his way out, and Well, he's going to go through the bicycle storage, and he's got the window to possibly vault on through. Upstairs control from the ashes. SSG is going to need to just watch intently as Canadian goes for a plant. Bosco flattened by the TCSG, and then down goes Thinking Nade. There's 2 big kills from Vertical. We'll get on the scoreboard, and another from Biologic. Space Station have fallen out of orbit. It's 5-0 for Oxygen, and they only have 1 more round left before they go on to attack. Match point is within their grasps.
The same thing that happened the last time SSG attacked on a kitchen, but in slightly different format. In this case, SSG once again got control of the top floor, and once again, it amounted to very little. The vertical pressure applied by the holes opened by the sledge was none. Basically, didn't matter. A big part of that has to do with those roamers for Oxygen. The roamers were so prevalent in the round, far off site, picking away at the sides of SSG, making them get distracted. Little things like that, they really do matter. And chip away at the seconds that you have available as an attacking team. Not only that, if we're talking about seconds, that exothermic charge getting destroyed by the C4, massively worth it. That shaved off 15 seconds or so. Maybe a little bit less, but a good chunk of time. When you've only got 30 seconds, that's massive. All of these little exchanges keep going the way of Oxygen. And yeah, Laxing got picked off. And yeah, Laxing's 1, 3, and 4. But you know who's influencing this match quite a lot? Oh, it's Laxing. And everyone on Oxygen is contributing to the success we're seeing here. For example, apart from the roamers, the anchors on site. We're usually looking at 2, maybe 3 anchors for Oxygen. Sometimes even 1. And those anchors know exactly when they need to expose themselves and when they need to stay safe. They know when to expect SSG's execution into the site itself, and every time that awareness has worked for Oxygen. The delay, coupled with the non-exposed anchors who wait for the last few seconds, great combo.
I talked last round about the brazenness that we saw from Vertical, and Foxay is going to do his best version of it this time as he hops out on the Vigil and nearly catches somebody from SSG off guard, but they had the better, I guess the better retort there. As Foxay scampers off with 25 HP less than he had before he hopped out that window. This is a big play from OXG, and I mean, how many times do we have to talk about a team that is playing loose and isn't playing with expectations on their shoulders and how well they are capable of doing, Michael? I mean, you look at a team like Space Station, they are the defending champions, technically. I mean, I guess the Invitational was a major. SSG is still defending, at least in this region, even though everything's kind of broken up into their own mini majors. OXG came in with a bit of a limp as they didn't have the strongest end of the first stage, and well, they're going to be playing with minimal expectations. You know, you're not the defending world champs. SSG are, and in fact, they are now trailing and in a very bad spot on their map.
I love the awareness. Here's the thing. Yes, SSG are playing poorly. I will say that. But I also think that a big part of that is the awareness for Oxygen. Oh, looks like possibly a rush here. Vertical's going to run straight into 3 SSG attackers. And, well, Space Station gets control of the B bomb site. We'll start going for that diffuser plant. That's a second one for Fultz on the entry. He's got Astro control hiding behind the desk. He will get a third and a fourth, but not the ace. Canadian picks up that last kill, and SSG absolutely sweep away that round.
Rampy, chew with your mouth closed, for God's sakes. It's 2020, young man.
I was going to say
You're
something.
not a kid anymore!
I was going to say something about something, but I don't even remember what it was because that round just, wow.
That round was a small breath of fresh air for SSG, but you could tell the looks on their faces. They're obviously not that pumped up. And this is a team that likes to shout like barbarians when they win a round. And, well, both Rampy and Troy had a bit of nervousness on their faces. And I mean, I think that's for pretty good reason. You are, we cannot stress this enough. You are on your map and you are getting beaten. Now, with a map like Villa, the way that historically it plays out, you expect the defense to win 4 of those 6 rounds. 5-1 can make a sizable difference because now all Oxygen needs to do to guarantee overtime, at which they are not on defense. We should make note of that. It'll be SSG on defense twice if it goes to overtime. All Oxygen needs to do to at least guarantee overtime is a single round. That's it. The likelihood of any team winning 6 in a row, which is what SSG would need to do, they need to go perfect on this half in order to win it, is tiny. We've seen it. How many times? Maybe enough on 2 hands between all the professional Rainbow Six that we've watched over the last couple of years. So Oxygen's sitting very pretty right now. They're obviously going to have confidence on their side, and barring that last round, of which, by the way, Fultz has very much woken up. 4 kills on that round obviously does wonders to your stat line, but on top of that, he'd been semi-impactful in a couple rounds prior. He's waking up at the right time for this team. If you see the same out of Thinking Nate or Bosco or Canadian, all of whom are also not having the greatest run on the scoreboard, then I think SSG has a fighting chance. But it's going to be tough. Honestly, this is a very bad spot to be in for Spacestation right now.
It certainly is. I remember what I was going to talk about now. Oxygen read into the SSG Villa playbook, clearly. They're very aware of what they're dealing with here, and obviously they've got past experience. Because on that first half, Oxygen knew exactly what they were going to do. They knew they were going to delay. They knew the roamers were going to force the drones to do more work. And they were going to just prioritize staying alive until the last few seconds. And Oxygen did exactly that. It finally got figured out by SSG at the last round. That's the thing that's most interesting. SSG did adapt. They did figure out what Oxygen were doing. They figured out how to counter it. It was way too late, though. You know, last round of your first half. And that's when you figure out what you're doing. It was unfortunate. At least now SSG knows that Oxygen is on them. They know that Oxygen has a certain level of awareness of what SSG typically does on this map. And because of that, Spacestation will be able to adjust their play slightly, even on the defensive half. So there's something. For right now, it's focused on opening up the wall. There's a thermite in play. There's cleared out from below. As you can see, Oxygen, they were forced to clear out below because of these holes in the floor. And now it'll be a nade comboed with the exothermic in an attempt to open that wall. Magnet catches the nade, which means that Thinking Nade can impact trick the first exo. Doesn't look like there's going to be... Okay, there is going to be a second nade, followed up by a second exothermic. Ooh, impact is baited out. Thinking Nade just whiffed massively. That's the second impact, which means there's no more to deny this thermite. He can open up the wall. Great job to Bio faking out the placement. I think. Am I wrong? No, I'm wrong.
You are wrong.
Yeah, I'm wrong.
He had already started the second exothermic charge. 3 nades actually involved in that. Frag grenade, impact nade, thinking nade. And thinking nade ends up being the better nade.
Anyway.
Of the 3, actually, he ends up being the better one. And yeah, that's huge. Biologic lost both of his exothermic charges. It was very nearly a fake out. It looked like Bio was trying that, and he immediately just goes on that drone. And I can imagine in a bit of a point of frustration as the defense coming alive, down goes Laxing, another from Rampy. He's got 2 so far. He's headhunting, and he'll find verticals to add to his tally. 3 members of Oxygen, and they're going to need to go for broke here. Poison waiting at the window is Fultz. He'll shred through Slash, dropping 1, looking for a second, but it's a team kill. Foxay, the culprit, who now finds himself in a only losable situation. It's 2 in a row from Spacestation as they take their debut on defense in a much more convincing fashion. And I think what we are starting to see, even though it's just 1 round, I might be getting ahead of myself, is the fact that this is going to be an absurdly defender-sided Villa. So buckle up because we will likely go the distance here, at least if that round is any judge.
Oh, my bad about that call. I don't have game sound, so I didn't hear the exothermic start to go off. I did not think that he could hit that impact. But
what are you, like, partially deaf or something?
Yes, I am half deaf.
What?
Yeah. In my right ear. Crazy. Tinnitus, too. Let's go.
I had. Oh.
But I didn't hear the exothermic nor see it, so my bad. But yeah, good job to Thinking Aid for denying that wall getting opened up. SSG looking a lot stronger on defense. Once again, something that I'm really interested in, there's a distinct lack of Thatcher. Instead, both teams opting to bring a set of nades to try and deny things like impact tricking. Obviously, Thatcher's not going to deny impact tricking, but what he will do is enable those nades to be more effective by getting magnets and ADSs. I'm just curious as to why that is. There's also a lot of soft destruction going on the attack. It's working out fairly well for the attack, I'd say, even though we've only got 1 successful attacking round. that particular functionality is not, I think, what's hindering both of these teams so much. In that last round, Oxygen did their best to get the wall open. I think they came pretty close, but yeah, they just need to be able to deal with pushing the impactor off of the wall a little bit better. Probably some soft destruction from below. I'm not sure, but there's a lot of options you got at your disposal. In this round,
you know that there's going to be an ADS or a magnet somewhere nearby, right? I mean, you saw that. The one thing SSG I think did a little bit better was how they were able to attack that wall in comparison to OXG. Now, obviously, the Knight is still very young here, as there will need to be at least one more trophy statuary defense for Space Station. So we'll likely get to see it again. And that's one of the changes that actually happened quite recently. He used to have a deployable shield, but Echo lost it, and in were swapped the impact grenades, which actually have played to his strengths. If he can just sit on the bomb site, he can impact quite successfully. It was a role that Kaid has played in the past. It's a role that Goyo has played. It's a role that Maestro's played, Smoke as well. So you just cycle through whichever operators you think is going to work best. That's a missed opportunity from Rampy as he just confronts head first the bursting ash of Slash, thinking Nade's taking a bit of damage too, and a castle with 50 HP, UMP in hand. He's not going to be that formidable of a fight. So this is not the start that I think you want if you're Space Station. It goes from bad to worse as Laxing takes the head off of Fultz. That was the Wamai trying to get back towards the bomb site and a crude angle being held from Laxing. That'll break this round wide open. And we just hit the halfway mark. So 90 seconds left for OXG to continue to punish Space Station and look to get match point.
Crucial difference between the attacking half of SSG and the attacking half of Oxygen, at least in this round. Those picks are so important, and there's been no bounce back yet for SSG. Still winnable for the defense, though. I mean, some opportune kills here and there, and this starts to sway back in towards Space Station's favor. We're not there yet, though. A whole minute for Oxygen to do what they want. They're going to go for a laundry wall. They will, it sounds like, yes, they will get it open. Now, there was, potentially, there were some C4s to do some work there, but a push from Thinking Nade is going to actually result in his demise. Canadian and Bosco now in a 2v3, or 2v4, actually. It's not 2 for Space Station, it's an exchange there. Bosco now has to hold on to Fuser and get 4 kills. He's already got 1, and he'll get no more. Nice try there for Bosco, but Oxygen just had the better execution. I love Oxygen's use of angles in that round.
And that's match point for them too. Yeah, Laxing in particular. You saw that angle where he was prone watching the staircase with the soft destruction opened up. And I mean, Villa is a very hard breach heavy map. There is that cut and thrust that happens around, whether it be a Maverick cutting open the wall, whether it be Hibana from long range if she's not banned often, if it's a Thermite and the exothermic charge and the soft destruction that's done in hand. There's so many different ways that you can open up these bomb sites, and they are always heavily fortified. But we don't often talk about the soft destruction aspect of Villa in the same way, and we especially don't talk about it from a horizontal standpoint. Yeah, we dive into the verticality of it, how you're going to take trophy and statuary, and you're going to want a sledge or a buck to open up that floor so you can reveal the bomb site of kitchen down below, or literally just reverse that if the bomb site is trophy statuary above. And one of the teams that we got to see for the very first time ever and how they were able to put a good impact on Villa with that soft destruction was actually a team that Fox A was on. It was the Beast Coast roster, which would then become Cloud9. They have obviously a lot of experience with it. And OXG really shined in that round. They were able to show that you can still put in plenty of horizontal soft destruction. You can catch the defenders off guard. And once that first pick came out, onto, I believe it was Rampy, and then immediately followed up by Fultz, who had to try to get back to the bomb site to shore up the defense that was left in somewhat pieces from Rampy being dropped. Well, SSG just kind of fell apart, and we got to see the sophistication from Oxygen's entry, and we got to see it work really well to pick off SSG and isolate those players trying to get back to the bomb site. With that said, it's match point, Michael, on Space Station's map.
So, I can tell you, of course, this can be wrong, as, you know, things can just be down to chance sometimes. But what I'm seeing here through these rounds, through this map, is that this map was already won for Oxygen in practice, not in the actual match. They obviously put a lot of effort into preparing for Villa, at least into practicing and refining their Villa, because this is the best Villa we've seen from Oxygen in recent history. by far. And they're also taking a team who typically play well on this map already to a disadvantaged scoreline. So I for one, I want to say that Oxygen won this just by being more prepared, and you could see that in the confidence in their angle play, the awareness of what their opponent's going to do, and the fact that they're right about those guesses, or what appear to be guesses for us, or probably more likely assessments based on practice and, again, like I said, research.
Oh
Laxing
my.
will take down Fultz. That's by books, so that's some of the top main pressure alleviated for the attack.
That was not who he wanted, but it's who he got anyway. He was looking for Rampy, and when you're angling for a big fish and you get a bigger fish, well, that goes quite the way. What a play from Bosco. It sounds like he actually exhausts his shotgun ammo. Was that the call that I just heard right there? Out of mags? We're going to have to watch that. Another from Bosco. He doesn't need the shotgun, as the SMG-11 is more than formidable enough, and he'll find his second kill to give SSG an advantage. But both Rampy and Bosco are a lot worse for wear. They're wearing it well, but they're still in a very bad spot. Rampy with just a tiny bit of HP, Bosco at about 25. They will die to a single bullet from most of the guns that exist in this game, so they are in rough spot. Bosco still has some insurance, though. A beautiful shot from Fox A's. He'll pick off the remainder of Rampy. There wasn't much there for him. And now OXG are going to creep up over towards Classical Hallway. 40 seconds left on this showdown, with Oxygen looking to put a dagger into the heart of Space Station on their own map. And we're going to have 30 seconds to see if it accelerates.
So far, a calm before the storm. Bosco being on low HP could be the real crippling blow here, but he's still got his 2 gas canisters, and if he uses them well, that could be all that matters. Great angle here from Echo, and it's Canadian, actually, to get the kill onto Vertical as he attempts to push in through the west door. Bosco gets his 3rd kill. Big round from him. Now it's all Foxe. He has to find 3 heads, and with the Yokai drone and the gas canisters, it just doesn't seem like it's gonna happen. Yokai will finish it off if he attempts to plant, so he has to go for the fights, and it's unwinnable. SSG will stem the bleeding for now and keep themselves in this map.
That one went from pretty good to, oh my goodness, we're losing very quickly, and a lot of that was the Bosco play. I think there was some confidence from Oxygen after they got that initial pick from Laxing down below. They assumed that by keeping somebody on that first floor, they would be able to patrol the main avenues out of the doorways into either the top of Classical Hall, either towards the top of main stairs, maybe even a rotate into study. It depends on where Laxing was positioned as that buck. But their study viewpoint was obviously not good enough, and they're going to need to study a little harder, as Bosco seemed to be playing off of a Yokai drone, or maybe even a Valk cam. It doesn't matter what it was, but there was certainly some information there at his disposal, so he could play with that confidence and be able to peek the doorway and then immediately get prepared for a second push from Oxygen. And I think Oxygen played that well, as they knew that the moment that Bosco swung with the shotgun, you can try to go for a refrag. That's usually the spot you want to be in, but Bosco was armed and dangerous. He was playing off of the deployable shield inside a gun vault, and he was very ready for it. You still have Valk cams up, you still have Yokai drones up, and now the advantage that OXG had has totally vanished. You're going to play a little bit more conservatively. OXG stacks up by the top of Classical Hall, and, well, they're going to be walking right into the waiting arms of the Echo, who was playing inside a vault, as you saw, with a crossfire from Canadian and then a Yokai drone, and both of the bomb sites prepped and ready for wherever the push came from. Ultimately, a pretty solid defense from Space Station. Nothing really wrong from OXG. They lost a couple gunfights, and they obviously didn't have the full coverage, especially on that study swing. Bosco dies, Michael peeking study, and that's probably a very different round, because that also means that the only person who was actively holding over an aviator, barring the top of red stairs, would have had to rotate with Bosco going down. So still match point for Oxygen. There's going to be a clash out for Space Station here, as it's a trophy and statuary defense. So something we haven't seen between these two teams yet so far in this matchup.
Okay, so once again, it's going to be a master take for Oxygen, which means once again they will have to clear out down below. The clash is going to be massive, as you said. We haven't seen it. We'll see if it has as much influence as we expect it to. Typically, clash does a lot of work as an operator. So I think in this case, the delay that's going to happen by Master is going to be a huge factor, especially considering that both teams have been struggling somewhat with the time. Less so Oxygen, of course, but maybe this is going to be the thing to change that. So far, nothing really eventful happening. set up finalizing. Rampy going to be roaming on the far south side of the top floor, but there's no clear to deal with, so he'll just chill over there until it's time for him to return to the site. Or maybe he'll try to deal with the problem downstairs. You can see Laxing is doing what we thought might be a good idea earlier. He's opening up below with soft destruction to try and dissuade the Echo from impact tricking. Still 2 impacts in Echo's pocket, so it's not worked just yet. He's just chilling by the wall.
One of those exothermic charges went off onto the closet wall, so you've got an entry point towards the bathroom for Oxygen if they want it. They can't really get the control of Master because, as you can see, it's being spearheaded on defense by none other than Canadian. And the clash is going to be quite an impediment, as you need a Zofia, who's been strangely absent from OXG's lineup, to really deal with her. Maybe even a Capitao. There's not an awful lot on OXG's side right now that can really effectively punish that clash. So they're going to have to work together to do this. All the while, they're going to have to be wary about possibly getting flanked, as Bosco seems in position to do that through, as I'd mentioned, that opening inside of the closet. Exothermic charge is as good as gone, so the impact grenades from Thinking Nade work effectively. It takes 2 of them, but it doesn't matter because there's no other hard destruction that's going to be able to do much, especially since there's no Maverick present and Hibana is banned. Only 40 seconds left, and the opening pick from the round is going to come from the defense. Foltz will open things up, and all the rest of SSG feeling shades of envy, and they'll decide it's my turn as they pass around the carcass of OXG, with Bosco as well as Rampy both getting a bite. In this instance, just pretend that they're lions, I guess, and that OXG's like a gazelle. I don't really know. 20 seconds left. There's still a clash on the board. This is surely going to be an SSG hold. They're just waiting very patiently. Call is made. Bosco with 1. Secondary fire from Bosco, but Canadian's going to distract him at the top of Armory. Are they going to give him the kill, or are they just going to toy with their food? Foltz will be the one to finish it off. A flawless round from SSG, and they'll take their 4th round of the last 5.
So, Oxygen tried something different to open the wall this time. They bucked from below, but they couldn't get all of the floor, and thus Echo's still allowed to impact trick. Lots of time spent on that. Nothing came of it. Wall not opened. Clash working out very well. Delaying for quite a long time. And, well, Oxygen dies as they throw their bodies into the bottlenecks. That's about the story, really, for the round. It was a nice try, though. I'm curious. Does the cubby thing not work, where you can make a hole in the wall? Did they change that, where you place your exothermic charge and some soft destruction, or were the walls reinforced the other way? It's possible, but whatever it is that's causing that wall to stay up. I mean, there's always a solution to impervious, seemingly impervious, I guess, wall. You can always get it open somehow. And it's just not been working out for Oxygen. Big part of that, of course, is going to be the play from SSG, from their Echo. The impact tricking going on there. It's been great work. But that wall has stumped Oxygen now twice, and it's clearly quite a problem for them. They might want to consider maybe a different strategy on attack altogether, or a different way of getting the wall open. And there are many tools they haven't used that they could potentially use to get that wall open. Now it's going to be a kitchen defense, though, so times change, sites change. Another opportunity for Oxygen to assert their dominance and take this map number 1. But they are starting to lose control. It's noticeable, to be sure. And I got to be worried for Oxygen at this point. They've won their 1 round on attack so far, so there's potential for SSG to mimic Oxygen's first half and bring this to OT. I mean, we're only 2 rounds away from that potential moment.
And they've made a change on Oxygen's side, and that's that the thermite experiment has ended. Biologic has gone ice cold when it comes to the score sheet, but his utility play is what needs to be even better. He's had some significant degree of difficulty on that hard breach roll so far today. It was noted in the very initial matchup against TSM that, well, Biologic was, he died trying to get the exothermic charge off, or his hard breach off, something like 5 times in a row. That's the rough spot to be in, and I know that a lot of hard breach mains in professional play can commiserate with that, with the circumstances that Biologic found himself in. So this time, instead of being at the mercy of an impact grenade, go to a Maverick. It might be a bit of a safer bet. You need to be wary of a C4, but other than that, you have enough ample time to be able to get that wall open. You're not going to be impeded by a secondary gadget the same way that an exothermic charge from Thermite would.
Certainly not. TikTok. We don't have top floor control.
Oh, TikTok's banned.
For Oxygen. They're working on it, though. Thinking Aiden Foltz could be roaming upstairs, and they're trying to just delay a little bit longer, it seems. Wall should get opened up. Now, this is actually... they get rid of the thermite as the wall is not being denied. They'll lose one from below to a C4. That's Bosco downing, I believe, with a shotgun, finishing off with the C4. And, well, Foltz does get picked off upstairs. So it's an even exchange, but certainly in the favor of the defenses. They've just gotten the sledge. He's not going to be able to open up any more holes.
They've still got a buck, so you've got somebody to play that same role, though I'd imagine that Foxy and Laxing were tasked with very different ways of hitting the bomb site. They don't tend to play similar roles, so... Laxing will be upstairs in statuary. With this being a kitchen defense, you are going to be almost directly above the bomb site, and it's going to be crucial that Laxing stays alive as long as possible. He's looking for somebody down below, but he can't find it just yet. All the while, Biologic doing his job as that breacher torching open the wall. Missed opportunity for Thinking Nade as the UMP is in hand. Biologic gets downed, but Vertical with great coverage. His second kill, giving Oxygen an advantage, though Bio being down means that it is a 3v3. Buckle up for the final 10 seconds that could push Oxygen up to a 1-0 lead, but they'll run right into Bosco. Prone on the ground, he flattens Slash. 5 seconds left, and Vertical and Laxing will need to do their best, but no, they're all dead. We're going to need 12 rounds. As you can see, finally some emotion from Space Station. A critical final round of regulation will determine whether we are seeing Oxygen go up 1-0 or an extra 3 rounds here on Villa.
Bosco keeps coming up huge for his team. In that round, it seemed like Oxygen was going to be able to take it on the control alone. Yes, they were very slow on the attack, and yes, the roam was successful for SSG. The delay was a massive factor. However, when the transition to the site execution came out, Bosco was there to greet the majority of the attacking team. He held it down in the site, put up some big numbers. I think he got 3 there by himself. Whatever the case, Space Station, as a whole, rallying back, and it's been such a magnificent rally at that. Most of these rounds seemingly falling to the same exact issue that Space Station had on the first half. That is time. We've seen some fast attacks from Oxygen. We've seen them be lethal, but it's inconsistent so far. There's certainly... Space Station is certainly more comfortable on defense, and Oxygen is certainly... I think they've been the sharper team overall for the map, but that's starting to change as Space Station grow their confidence. And I think it's been pretty noticeable in the second half.
Foltz had a rough going at the start of that first half, but he caught fire and has continued to be good. Obviously not great, but good enough. Bosco, on the other hand, was ice cold until the side swap and is now proving why on defense so many people consider him to be, well, the clutch minister. I know that people use that term as a joke against players who are anything but clutch. But it's no joke. Bosco's no joke. And Space Station, because of it, now find themselves with an opportunity to put it on a defense. And as was mentioned when we were talking about this a couple rounds before, defense will be Space Station twice. So that's pretty significant. And they're doing a defense on Aviator games that looks identical to what we saw out of OXG and very similar to the previous Aviator defense that actually worked quite well for Space Station back in round number 9. They're going to go for a very quick reinforce. They're not going to bother at the top of main stairs as the 2 denial duos of both Rampy and Foltz will be positioned there. That's the Wamai and the Jaeger. They're at the top of classical stairs, and they'll be guarding that classical hallway. In fact, while also watching for a possible pivot over towards the study, which is where Foltz is looking right now.
Very different on that early reinforcement for SSG. Not what I expected. But they could still play the top main. They just won't have as easy a retreat. Since there's no 90 control as a priority, though, for Oxygen, it doesn't matter that much. Because if 90 is not being played, you can still make it back through the doorway. You don't have to have the hole in the wall. It just offers a quicker retreat. Not necessary here, though. Buck below, now he's got an opportunity to do some serious work, dislodging some of the anchors by the bar. Hasn't started on it just yet. Might be waiting for someone to drone him into bar so he has hard information on his targets. So far, though, Oxygen have yet to take control of the top of main stairs, and that's the real dilemma here. They need to do that in order to execute into study. Bosco will get laxing, and it was from above, no less, which means that was probably Bosco shooting through a hole laxing made or something along those lines. Maybe through the drop down. Either which way about it, laxing's gone. Man advantage, SSG. On the precipice of overtime, it certainly seems like we're going to get there.
Yeah, especially with Bosco playing this way, you'll once again have to confront the fact that there's a Valkyrie and an Echo on the board. So lots of information, which if Vertical's not fragging, he's going to need to be discovering the location of those gadgets. So keep an eye on what he's going to be able to do. Biologic is off of Maverick, back onto Thermite. He's got both exothermic charges, but there's 40 seconds left, and you can see that Thinking Nate is in the best position possible to be able to throw that impact grenade and stop the exothermic charge from going off. All the while, on the deep flank downstairs is Canadian, and he's got a C4, and there it goes. It's been tossed out, but we don't know if it's been detonated just yet. He might have had it go. Yeah, it did, over towards 90. One kill for Slash, answered back by Foltz. A quick rain for the Ash, and that'll be that. Once again, SSG in good position, and it will get better as Bio goes down now, too. Foltz repositioning with Diffuser just in his grasp, over by 90. The Viper's Den for OXG as they'll try to get it, but Bosco gets credited with his second kill, even though the Jaeger was there. Fox A an impactless frag, and overtime is on the menu. Space Station, what an impressive comeback. 5-1 on defense for both teams means that we've got 3 more rounds to settle this.
12 rounds, 2 attacking rounds. 1 for each team. Rough stuff for Oxygen, who find themselves on attack in overtime. That is rough stuff indeed. Now, Aviator Games, the first defense for Space Station, they're certainly feeling confident about that. And rightfully so. That last round was just another example of the Foltz and Bosco show. They're your hosts. They'll take it away from here. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It was beautiful stuff, really. Bosco, his gas canisters seemed to encompass the entire west hallway. His discipline on when to use those gas canisters is what I find most impressive. Where most players will use the gas canisters to whittle down starting at the 45-second mark, Bosco waited a little bit longer because he knew he could, because he knew what his enemy was doing, because he's in their minds. And it worked. Well done to Bosco for his awareness and his ability to make the push through that west hallway a living nightmare. Meanwhile, despite it already being extremely difficult thanks to Bosco's efforts as the smoke, Foltz is all the while coming up on the north hallway leading to 90. He sweeps up 2 easy kills. Could have gotten the third, as you mentioned. But no matter how you look at it, Oxygen's already dealing with one massive problem, the anchors. And then Foltz is coming up from behind. Unwinnable at that point. Especially after Foltz just didn't lose his fights. Well done to SSG. Amazing rally back.
This is the composure that you expect to see out of them, and I mean, there's a reason why, even when basically getting pummeled by Ninjas in Pajamas, Space Station was able to come back. This was something that was missing from Oxygen in the TSM matchup. OXG did not have that fortitude to be able to pull themselves back from the brink, and they sunk deeper and deeper into the void, and well, they didn't exactly have the best second map after a bad first map, and that's why they are here now. For SSG, this is obviously a mood ruiner for the OXG fans because you were oh so tantalizingly close. You were up 5-1. And then the side swap, and well, have we got a story for you. So, overtime, as we said, SSG will be defending twice. Obviously, the favorable position to be in. They've changed up a little bit on this defense with the Clash now anchoring down on 90, and you might keep both Foltz and Rampy a little bit closer to the bomb site. That fight that we saw Foltz very keen to take into study will unlikely happen this time, depending on the way that OXG decides to push on out, and they are spread up all over this map. Take a look at that. I don't think anybody from OXG is working with one another at this present moment, and that's not exactly the situation you want to find yourself in. We've been very critical of OXG in the past because they get picked off one by one. No refrag potential, no trade potential. They just end up falling to their doom. They need to avoid that, obviously, because SSG have now mounted a significant comeback that can kill your confidence, and, well, you don't want to kill your chances as well.
So this Clash is actually pretty gigabrain. You've got a lot of things you can do with that. You can cut off... or see, remember the hole in the wall by the games bar? You can allow your Jaeger to rotate...
You didn't let me answer. I do remember the hole in the wall.
Oh, okay. You can allow your Jaeger to rotate even after 90 control is lost, because of the clash. He can make that rotate more viable.
Oh,
more
that's a
importantly,
suppressor.
look at how difficult this is making taking 90 control for Slash. Yeah, I don't understand his loadout either.
That's got to be an accident. That's like a, oh, I'll pick Maverick. I'll pick Maverick. Oh my God, what weapon do I have?
I got the meme loadout from when I was playing ranked earlier.
Not
Hmm?
ideal.
Yeah, and look at that. As Oxygen attempts to rotate because of the clash, you're still able to play at top main, and that means that Laxing gets picked off. Now, there is an answer back, though, as Faults gets way too aggressive in the west hallway. That was completely unnecessary. It was a call probably made by the clash on the location, and Faults just wanted to capitalize. I understand it, but it might end up costing the round.
There was an exothermic charge that was intended for that study wall that is now gone, and well, you can see Thinking Nade still has one left in his pocket, but he gets a shot from Foxay, very narrowly missing. Biologic going for the plant, and we'll see if the Yokai can stop it. The toxic canister's doing great damage, and Bio won't be able to stick it out. What was he thinking? He's gone, and so is Foxay as SSG dominates the kill feed, and with 5 seconds left, Slash is not going to be able to do more. He finds his second kill, but SSG shuts them out. And now they're on match point. They've trailed all match long. But what a comeback it's been. We'll see how good they can be as they now go on to attack for round number 14.
Well done there to SSG, persevering, despite letting that pick get away. Most of it comes down to time and the bottlenecks and the limited options the attack has. Once again, that seems to be the story for this entire match. I think the overarching story for this map, though, has to be the mental fortitude of SSG. Something that I've discussed before in the past. Technically, a lot of esports have some sort of built-in momentum chain, like a currency system or something along those lines, that carries from round to round. Technically speaking, in Siege, the only thing that you really can do round to round is influence where you're allowed to pick in terms of sites on defense. Like, that's really it, right? You win a site, you're not going to go there the next round or the next one. And that's the extent of carryover round to round in this game. And so, if you're able to get to a point where you're professional enough to just play the rounds as they are and not worry so much about being down 6-1, not let that get to your head, focus on the map, or rather the round as an individual round by itself, I think that really says a lot about how much work you put in. And SSG certainly is displaying that here today, because I think pretty much everyone would have counted them out when they were down 5-1 or something along those lines, 6-2, I think, or, at one point or another. I think most people would have said, yeah, SSG's going to lose here. And they didn't let it get to them. They kept playing, and we're seeing just a defender-sided Villa right now. Sometimes that's how cards fall. Sometimes it just happens to be attacker-sided or defender-sided. In this case, it's clearly very defender-sided. And because SSG wasn't psyched out from the failure in the first half, they were allowed to do the same thing Oxygen did. Now the question is, will Oxygen be the one psyched out?
There's speculation abound, and I mean, we're going to be treated to Consulate after this with Coastline as the tiebreaker. It certainly did seem like this was going to be a quick one. Ooh, round number 8, as you pointed out. Yeah, it was 6-2 for OXG, and well, as we tend to see from maps that happen to have a certain rhythm to them, be they attacker or defender-sided, in this case, obviously, it's been very heavily defender-sided. There's only been 2 successful attacking rounds of the 13, now 14, as we are in the midst of it. That's, those are harrowing numbers for the attackers, and you're hard-pressed to be able to buy a win here. Spacestation obviously have changed things up, and they must like what they see, but they have had some difficulties when trying to take Aviator and games, and OXG is doing their best impersonation of the Space Station defense. As you can see, it is an identical lineup to what was being brought out from SSG. 90 seconds left. There's been no contest.
There's been a little bit of pre-firing, but nothing else really to speak of. Ooh, the clash is being detected. The nade from below. This could be huge. And he lands it. Biologic goes down. A perfect counter to answer the strategy that Oxygen adapted. But at least Vertical is able to get Faults, as Faults attempts to push up to 90. This time the Jaeger's aggression working out for the defender. In this case, Oxygen, but still, the story is there. Now, that was a beautiful counter for SSG. And I think definitely, if we're talking about impactful frags, the favor goes to Space Station. Even though it's Fultz, one of your top fraggers, you've still got Bosco in play, and you've gotten rid of that pesky clash.
It sounds like yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like the Maverick is going to work, but I couldn't see where Canadian was, as he's on his belly over by that classical hall. He'll get 90, technically, that wall leading into vault, and all it's going to do is just push off the defender that's playing inside of there. So that room is effectively unusable because, well, you've got somebody playing on repel. This is a tough spot to be in if you're Foxay. There's another grenade from Rampy as he'll blow Foxay sky high. And now SSG has all the mojo in the world. Still two of those EE1Ds to go off. As Canadian looks primed and ready, he'll toss his frag grenades in, and the Lion will freeze everybody in place. Canadian going for the plant. There goes Slash, as Thinking Nade's DMR rips right through him. Vertical takes out Thinking Nade, but Canadian looks to be able to get away with it. OXG, a counter punch, but it's Laxing now in a 1v2. Very quickly, a 1v1. Diffuser surrendered. Oh, all on the shoulders of Rampy. Laxing will need to go for a defuse, but he's just one single bullet. Laxing hot on the heels of Rampy, but this is very much a game of cat and mouse at the moment. 30 seconds left. You're going to have to make a wild dash for it. Does Rampy know where he's going to be coming from? Laxing will now try to go from another angle as he'll head on over towards the diffuser with the wall in place, but Rampy's better. And Space Station, what an impressive comeback. They were down at 1.5 to 1, and they managed to win their map. Goodness gracious, 8-6 the scoreline, hard-fought victory.